By the authority vested in me as president by the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, I hereby order that the privilege of United States citizenship is priceless and profound gift. 14th Amendment states, blah, 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 blah. Read that to you already. That provision rightly repudiated the Supreme Court decision of the United States, shameful decision in Dred Scott versus Sanford, which misinterpreted the Constitution as permanently excluding people of African descent from eligibility. But the 14th Amendment has never been interpreted to extend citizenship universally to everybody born within the United States. The 14th Amendment has always excluded from birthright citizenship persons who were born in the United States but not subject to the jurisdiction thereof. That means if your parents, for those of you who are a little slow and sitting in the back of the class, are from a country and they're here visiting, like on a birth tourism visa.
Yeah.
You're not subject to the United States, and neither are they. They're here on a visa as a tourist, as a guest, as a visitor.
And this is a simple test. If you have to call your embassy, if you're in America and you get in trouble and you have to call the embassy, you're subject to them, not us.
That's correct.
It's just that simple.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly correct.
Yeah. So if you're a Bolivian citizen, and you're in the United States and you have a kid, you're still subject to the Embassy of Bolivia.
That's correct.
Therefore,
you are not under the jurisdiction of the United States.
Correct. And this whole birthright thing, it needs to get fixed.
Yeah, it's absolutely the most bizarre thing I've ever seen in my life that this has been allowed to go on. But we know that it is part of the subversion that's been going on since the very late 1800s. It goes into World War I. Chief Justice Martin Brandeis, you might want to give him a look. A man named, what's his name now? I can't say his name. Lev Bronstein. Lev Bronstein was in New York in 1915. He's from Ukraine, and he was in New York visiting some particular bankers who funded him, and he took that money to Russia and started a revolution there. And while that revolution was going on, you know him as Trotsky. Lev Bronstein changed his name to Trotsky.
And he ran into a terrible ending in Mexico.
Dude, he was killed with an ice pick. How fucked up is that shit?
That's like prison death right there.
It is. He was shanked. Mm-hmm. He was shanked in Mexico. Anyway, while Bronstein's doing this in 1917, our universities are also being infested with Bronstein/Trotsky's particular party and political affiliation, which you all know as the Bolsheviks.
Ah, you bastard.
He's doing that. Our schools are slowly being taken over, and by 1932, Columbia University, one of the greatest universities that we had, one of the oldest, is now being run by a man named Horkheimer. Well, from Germany via France, comes a guy named Herbert Marcuse, who was one of the founders of the Frankfurt School, which is bad because these are turbo Marxists. These are like total raging, crazy ass communists. They're not Bolsheviks. This is a different thing. That went right by you. I love it. Anyway, these guys start taking over our schools by 1932, and that's when all of this nonsense starts to kick in, that anybody who is born in the United States, regardless of where their parents are from or why their parents are here, is automatically a United States citizen. We don't have magic dirt.
Automatically.
We don't have magic dirt. It doesn't work that way. You don't get to just waltz in here, and take a crap, wipe your ass with a handful of dirt, and bam, you're an American citizen. No. So, consistent with this understanding, Congress has further specified through legislation that a person born in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof is a national and citizen of the United States at birth. 8 U.S. Code 1401, generally mirroring the 14th Amendment. Among the categories of individuals born in the United States and not subject to the jurisdiction thereof, the discussion that we just had, the privilege of United States citizenship does not automatically extend to persons born in the United States when, one, that person's mother was unlawfully present in the United States and the father was not a United States citizen or lawful permanent resident at the time of said person's birth. That's every single illegal in the country. You're all going home. I don't care when you were born.
Well, here's another thing when we talk about that. All right. There are people that were born here, but their parents came here illegally.
Yes.
And this is going to sound harsh. And I don't care. You're 18, 19, 20s, whatever. If you're not a U.S. citizen,
yeah,
and even if you grew up here, you should be subject to being sent back to your parents'
I agree.
country.
I 110%
It's their
agree.
fault. It's not ours.
Correct. Yes. Yep. Don't get mad with us.
Yeah,
we didn't create the situation.
I gotcha. And this is just my opinion because the northern and southern border have been so abused for the past 4 years.
4 years, dude, for the last 60 years.
Well, I'm just saying, this past 4 years has been like the shining example. We should shut down all immigration into the United States for at least 10 to 15 years and sort this all out.
Yes, I agree. We should be deporting also.
Correct.
A lot more than we're doing right now.
Well, okay. Right now they're starting at the dangerous people at the top and they're working down the pyramid.
Yes.
All right.
And that's acceptable. I mean, you got to start somewhere. I know it's not a magic wand. So when that person's mother was unlawfully present in the United States, or two, when that person's mother's presence in the United States was lawful but temporary. Remember what I just said about birth tourism?
Yep.
They literally come over. I'm going to Disney World where I'm going to have my baby in the back of a diner somewhere, and bam, I'm a citizen. Fuck you.
Yeah,
no.
No.
No. Look, and the person's father was not a United States citizen or lawful permanent resident at said time of said person's birth. We can't just take everybody. You can't do that. That's no way. You can't. That's not a country. That is how do you even put this? It's a freaking.
It's a chaotic free-for-all.
It's an open air farm where people are the commodity.
Yeah.
That's not a country. It's a factory, which is, of course, what the individuals who are perpetrating all of this want. They want countries, particularly white Western countries, because we have this habit of killing anybody who annoys us too many times.
Mm-hmm. But you got to understand, though, it's human nature. There's always people who think they're better than everyone else, and they should rule or command everyone else.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there's a particular group out there who feel they're really God's chosen people and they get to take over the entire world, and it's starting to come apart at the seams. And it just is what it is.
Well, it's the same thing with kings.
Yes.
Tribal leaders. That was before kings.
Fortunately, that tends to be a lot more localized. We're looking at right now the entire Western world. Okay, Ireland right now is being brutally invaded.
Overran.
Completely overrun. And the goal is clearly to wipe the Irish out of existence. Why? What purpose does this serve?
Well, the Irish are incredibly resistant to bullshit.
Yeah. Yes. And at a certain point, they're going to pick up the weapons that they don't have, that the IRA never buried in that barn out back in that field.
It all depends upon when this happens. If I'm free, maybe we can run guns, make some money. Who knows?
Do you remember any of the FBI raids in Detroit back in the 80s?
There's so many. Most of them were drug raids.
I had a friend named Sam who was Scots, and he lived in Corktown, which is the Irish neighborhood in Detroit. We would sit on his porch sometimes and watch the FBI raid a couple of blocks up the street because that's where the guns were being run out of.
Mhm.
They'd run them from the ports in Detroit up through the waterways in Canada, the name of which I can't remember right now. I keep wanting to say the Soo Locks. I think that it might be the Soo Locks, out to Ireland. The money would come in through Boston and the arms would go out through Detroit. And we saw like 2-3 raids when we were kids. We're like, oh, what are they doing? Oh, those are weapons. Oh, we're like teenagers. We're like, oh God, look at all the fucking guns.
In the United States, guns for us aren't a big deal.
It's not, but this was a number of guns. These guys were walking, the cops were walking out with like handfuls of guns. And later on,
unfortunately, if Ireland and England was allowed to have firearms, a lot of the shit you're seeing going on now wouldn't have happened.
That's why it was taken away.
Yeah.
That's why they were taken away. So, subsection A of this section shall apply only to persons who are born within the United States after 30 days from the date of this order. So, you can't have an ex post facto law, unfortunately. Nothing in this order shall be construed to affect the entitlement of other individuals, including children of lawful permanent residents, to obtain documentation of their citizenship. Secretary of State, the Attorney General, the Secretary of Homeland Security, etc., shall take appropriate measures to ensure that the regulations and policies are enforced. And it goes on through the definitions. Basically, this executive order says that it's time to enforce the actual law, not the law as they want to read it.
So that's the new executive order that Trump just signed?
That's the new one.
Now, if I recall, there was an executive order from back in the day that allowed or made it easier for the birthright citizenship to take place.
I don't know if there was an executive order to that effect, but what happened was the courts just decided to start saying that the 14th Amendment meant that any baby born inside, on U.S. dirt was...
Again, we have judges legislating from the bench, and that needs to come to an end.
As if they have agendas or something like that.
Yeah.
It's, And that absolutely needs to come to an end. It's the most ridiculous thing in the world. Look, birth tourism. Most Americans' complete ignorance of the law. Now, this article is from 2018, so we aren't even to where we are today here. 14th Amendment of the Constitution states all persons born are naturalized. We've been through this, jurisdiction thereof. This means that if a mother is present in the U.S. when the child is born, the child is a U.S. citizen. Put a pin in this point. No, it doesn't. We just had that whole discussion over the last article. Few would argue the point that an infant child is wholly dependent on its caregivers, usually its parents, to maintain its well-being, so remaining with the parent seems most logical. However, there is no legal provision that links the citizenship status of non-U.S. parents to that of their newborn child. This becomes an issue when the child is born to illegal immigrants in the U.S. and is also the source of misconceptions about immigration status. The anchor baby myth.
Here we go.
This article is going to try to refute what the law actually says, is my initial impression here. There are many Americans who believe that illegal immigrants deliberately plan to have children on U.S. soil. I know for a fact that they do. I've seen the damn TV shows in other countries. There are pamphlets and books on how to do it in foreign countries. Deliberately plan to have children on U.S. soil in order to circumvent the immigration system and secure legal status. I will also admit there are a number of immigrants who believe this to be an effective pathway to U.S. citizenship. Those children have been given the moniker anchor babies because they supposedly stalled deportation action against their immediate family members who now fall under the protective force field of the baby's legal citizenship status, which is exactly what Trump's executive order is about. All his executive order says is no, anchor babies aren't a thing because you don't fall under the jurisdiction of the United States. And
Bruce Lee, all right. I believe he was born in the United States.
I think he was born in Hong Kong.
Well, I thought he was a U.S. citizen. He was born here, and then they sent him back to China or Hong Kong or wherever. And I mean, okay, so let's say you're an illegal alien. You come here. You have a kid. Okay. If they're really going to say, okay, he's a U.S. citizen, got it. We'll issue him a certificate. We'll send all three of you back to the country you came from. And when he turns 18 or age of majority, he can come here, and that's that. And you're
you know what? I might actually be willing to go along with that to a degree.
That way, we're not on the hook to pay for your welfare, your WIC.
Yeah.
You're not taken out of our coffers.
Mhm.
I mean, okay, great. Okay, good. The kid you had is going to be a U.S. or is a U.S. citizen or perhaps dual citizenship.
Upon age of majority.
Yeah. But all of you are getting wrapped up in the same burrito and sent back to where you came from. And then you can unfuck it later.
Yeah.
Or
you can contest it from where you are, because we're not, you don't get to do this on our dime.
Yeah.
Which is really the big deal here. It's this freeloading off of our system that really, really, really particularly irks me. Bruce Lee was born in San Francisco, by the way.
Okay. So he was a U.S. citizen.
Yes.
And then he went back to Hong Kong.
Yeah.
And then, shit went down and he said, well, I'm going to try my shit in America since I'm a U.S. citizenship. And there you go. And a legend was born.
Yeah.
Actually, buried the Sergeant Major like 18 feet from his grave.
That guy freaking was fast.
It was inhuman. I watched some of his a documentary on him, man. And
yeah.
That's
crazy.
I would not want to fight that guy unless I had a gun and I had like 20 yards.
Yeah. Yes, he had some space between. Yeah. Yeah.
Nope, not having it.
Yeah, that guy was fast. Okay, the truth is that a child's citizenship status does nothing to improve her parents' immigration status in the United States. The parents remain subject to deportation and any other legal consequences of their illegal status despite having a citizen child. In fact, a 2013 report noted that each year, 153 citizen children could have one or more parent deported if the current detain and deport policies remain in place. That's exactly what's happening right now, by the way. There's all kinds of TikTok videos with kids freaking out as their parents are hauled off. Again, I'm sorry, you shouldn't have come here illegally. See my catalog of fucks.
Correct. There has to be some repercussions for this.
There has to be, yeah.
Like, number one, if you come here illegally, you should make it so you can never come back.
It's called a PNG, persona non grata.
Yeah,
you get PNG'd.
And like, if you want to come into the United States to work, we should have work visas. Not a big deal.
We have immigrant workers. We've always had the immigrant workers, and they come up here and they work and they make their money and they go home.
Yeah, but the left always is like, well, we need people to pick the crops, and we have work visas for that. And they're actually
before this.
Well, the Democrats or the left is really capitalizing on our ignorance,
which is what this article is. Yep.
Yeah.
So where were we, kids? The result is that these children are either left in the country with family members, put into the foster care system, or they're returned to the home country with their family, which is optimal. Take your child, go home. These children often have negative mental health consequences. I am sorry, I don't care. From the stress of losing one or both parents, a sharp decline in the family's income, housing, and food security, or facing the unknown, harsh, and oftentimes dangerous environment in the home countries as their families fled due to fear or abject poverty in the first place. Why is this our problem? Well, I am not the world's fucking nursemaid. Fuck you.
I'm going to add this to my book, The Warrior's Way. Mercy is cheap. Compassion is incredibly expensive, because literally they want us to be compassionate and go, you should stay here. And, no, fuck that, because math works. Math, basically runs the universe. We have an economy that works on math. Shit is not free.
Math is stupid.
Go back to where you came from and then fight it from there.
Look, like I just said, I don't want to be the world's nursemaid. We can't unfuck everybody's problems. I'm sorry. Unfuck your own problems. The one that sticks out the biggest for me, and I mentioned this before the show when we were talking and getting everything set up, is everybody's, oh, the poor Africans, we have to help them. Oh my God, those poor people, blah, blah, blah. They've had literally all of human existence to unfuck themselves. They've had the entire span of the human timeline to unfuck themselves.
And what happened?
There's a point where you are unfuckable.
Unfuckable.
You're not going to get your shit straight. I'm sorry. You've literally had the entire span of humanity's existence as a sapient race to get your shit together.
Correct. And
why are you my problem?
And they blame it on us.
We weren't there. I'm going back to the beginning existence. I guarantee you we weren't there.
And then they always fall back on the, like, you enslaved us and blah blah blah.
No, we didn't. They did that. We just went. It was like Tractor Supply. Okay.
Yeah.
There was a tribal group. I can't remember their name right now. The Ashanti in West Africa, and they got to the top of the heap. And they enslaved a bunch of the Africans from inside the interior of Africa. And the coastal Africans tended to be smarter than the interior Africans. It's just a fact. You talk to any African. I've got friends from Ivory Coast who will say the ones from inside deepest, darkest Africa are dumber than a fucking box of rocks.
But you also have to take into account that if you're a Caucasian and you went to Africa and you decided to get off the boat and,
they'd eat you.
Go on a safari. You had a life expectancy of was it
couple of weeks,
18 months.
Yeah,
that was it.
So the Ashanti were capturing the inland Africans and selling them as slaves, and the Western Europeans who were also being taken as slaves see from the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli. That song is about raiding the slavers in Libya to get our people back because thousands and thousands and thousands of white slaves have been taken. Basically, when we bought those slaves, when the people who were there buying those, it was like going to Tractor Supply.
Yeah.
No European raiding parties went into Africa to get slaves.
And also,
there are zero records of that.
In Northern Africa today, there are more slaves than there was back in the day. The main reason we're doing this is we're trying to tell you the exact spaghetti knot that we have to unfuck in 2025 that was tied back in 1790 and then retied and retied and retied to the point where it's being abused and costing us trillions of dollars. Trillions. Because when you add up all of the costs of this over the past half a century, or maybe even 70 years, all of the welfare, all of the hospital trips, all of those sons of bitches that do crimes that get thrown in prison, it's all paid for with tax dollars.
You've got these guys with their farms who are like, I need the illegal workers, or the construction guys. I've seen a bunch of contractors going, I don't have workers. They don't count the social cost of what they're doing, because a lot of these illegals, sure, they'll come in and they'll work. Okay, that's fine. But then when they go home, they're drunk driving, they're committing crimes, their kids are getting into gangs, they're freaking, we've got the hyper violent Venezuelan gang here. Mara Salvatrucha, we've got the Salvadoran gang that actually started in LA and they're now all in prison in El Salvador, which is really funny because the prison is an absolute hellhole.
I know. Have you seen that footage?
That's awesome. That's fucking, yeah. Don't do the crime. If you don't want to end up in a place like that, don't do the crime. It's pretty simple. But so am I telling you, if you have a citizen child, you cannot, the citizen child cannot garner parents' U.S. citizenship? Now, this is interesting because I didn't know this, and you were talking about a pathway for these people, and look at what we have here. A citizen child is able to sponsor her parents to get green cards once she turns 21 years old. Even at that time, the parents need to meet very specific character criteria in order to qualify for permanent resident status. It's called immigration. We don't want losers, druggies, rapists, pedophiles, what have you here.
Mm-hmm.
This is not unreasonable behavior. So they have to meet all of these statuses for lawful permanent resident status. This is hardly a speedy jump to the head of the line strategy described in the rhetoric of those who want to limit or revoke birthright status. No, it's not. We don't want any of this.
This is an exception I would like to see.
Yes, because it never works this way now.
If you're a permanent resident, and you're here in this country, and you serve in the military, and you do 4 years, by the time you're done with your 4th year, you're an automatic U.S. citizen. Because if you're willing to like put up and shut up and risk everything, fuck it, you go to the front of the line.
I served with 2 Irish guys, a Colombian, and 2 Puerto Ricans who all did that.
Yeah.
And when I was in Korea, we had a Katusa, and the Katusa is Korean augmentees to the United States Army. They literally lend us soldiers. We had this guy. It turns out he got lucky and got assigned to the MI battalion where we all spoke Korean. This kid, one of our guys, went home with him over Chuseok, which is one of the Korean holidays. It's basically their Thanksgiving. This kid was dirt the fuck poor. And being a Katusa was like the highlight of his life. And he was about to finish being a Katusa and go back to being dirt the fuck poor. And he was like really seriously hick countryside poor. He just got lucky and drew the right straw. That's when the American mentality kicks in. Everybody in the battalion liked this guy. His name was Yoon. And by the time a Katusa is done, they get promoted to sergeant. They do a little over 2 years. We got him an American award. We wrote him up. Everybody backed him. People wrote letters of support and everything like that for this guy. And this happened in 1997. And he was an only child, and his parents were older and everything. And this guy didn't have anything to return to. We busted our ass to get this guy to the States, where he learned English right away when he got there. Like, he made an effort to fit in. He wanted to be an American soldier.
Yep.
We got him to the States. 4 years later, one of my guys who was, he was an E4 when I was an E4 there. We're both staffed now. He goes, hey, and he flips me a Facebook page. Yoon had gotten his legal residency, and we got him into the fucking United States Army. And there's him standing in his freaking Class A photo as an American E4, looking proud as fuck with like this fierce ass look on his face, like, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
That's the immigrants you want.
Yeah. I'll take those any day.
Yeah. He busted his ass, so we busted our asses for him.
Now, here's another injustice. There's a bunch of guys in Mexico that got deported who actually saw combat in the United States military.
Every one of those should be let back in.
Yeah. Yeah. They need to be let back in and given their fucking citizenship. I mean,
if
like
you
I said,
willingly bled for us,
yeah,
I'm going to make an exception for you.
Yeah. Fuck yeah. You go right to the front of the line.
Because you signed that fucking blank check.
Yeah. Just like I did.
Yep. And fought right alongside of us. If you show that grit, if you show that willingness to sacrifice, you're in my book. You're in my book.
Yeah. I have no problem with that.
So these are just our opinions. Everybody might not have the same opinion. This is a
But you
show
and I
where
have
we
that
talk
code
about
of
our
honor,
fucking
Steve.
opinions. What's that?
You and I have that code of honor, though.
A lot of the guys, well, my whole battalion had that code of honor. We made sure Yoon got his ass to the U.S., and I think he's retired now. But the last I heard, he was like an E7 or something like that.
Good. Good.
At any rate, where the hell were we? In fact, those in law and politics know that birthright citizenship serves no immediate benefit to legal immigrant parents, but these kind of pesky facts do not support their objective of limiting the growing presence of immigrants in the United States. We want that limited. Look, we did a show on populations. Remember, we did that where we had 146 million people at the end of World War II?
Uh-huh.
That's what we fought the fucking war with. was about 150 million people in the United States. We got 320 million now, 330 million, something like that. And 220 million is white Americans. In World War II, we were 96% of the population, 95% of the population, thereabouts.
Mm-hmm.
We've been kind of muddied out there, dumping other races in to the United States to skew everything, to make it look like we're dying out. But we're at 220 million from 146 million. That's where we should be. That's a normal population. We don't need all of this immigration. We don't need it. We won 2 world wars with half the people.
No, hang on.
Okay.
It's not that we don't need it. The powers that be want it.
Yes.
They want to skew the politics.
Cheap slave labor.
They want the cheap slave labor because human beings are evil, hairless monkeys. And there's people out there like, I should rule over all these idiots. And you're going to have the kings, the emperors, the tribal leaders, or tyrants, what have you, commissars. There's so many names for the guys at the top of the pyramid who think they're better than everyone else.
And they're all assholes.
Yeah, and they're not.
They are all invariably assholes.
No, listen, gravity still works on them.
Yep.
Their meat suits don't last forever.
Yes.
That's just the way it is.
High velocity metallic messaging.
Yes. That is a situation.
Our population is being diluted with these huge numbers of illegals being born in the country. Our resources, your welfare, your EBT, all of that stuff, medical care, dental care, education is all being spent on these illegals. And then on top of that, many of them work and send all of their money home. So it's a triple drain on our whole culture and our whole society. And it's just ridiculous. And President Trump is absolutely right to issue that order to enforce the 14th Amendment properly. So the federal government and immigration authorities are trying to crack down on this practice. As previously mentioned, it's not illegal per se to travel to the United States and have a baby while you are here. However, the popularization of this trend has spurred an industry that assists pregnant women. I've been talking about this the entire time. These visas are often applied for using false statements as to why the women are traveling to the U.S. and where the Department of Homeland Security, Immigration, and Customs Enforcement gets involved. Federal authorities couch their concern about birth tourism and the usurping of American laws by foreigners to gain the prized benefit of U.S. citizenship. It is a valid concern, but I must note that the primary objective of these tourists is to gain entry to the country through subterfuge in order to acquire citizenship for their children the way they would walk into Tiffany's and buy the child a jewel-encrusted rattle. It is sought as an accessory, not a life-altering or even life-saving opportunity for betterment. I would also be remiss if I did not mention this frivolous poaching of the most coveted of American assets. The ability to be a citizen is not drawing the same level of ire from the anti-immigration faction. Look, go home.
Yeah.
Go home. You have a country. I'm sorry your country sucks. Unfuck your own mess.
Yeah, fix it.
God. Damn it, it's so frustrating.
Here's the thing that really annoys me. We are supporting the world. We're the police force to the world. We're sending billions upon billions of medical aid and all kinds of other shit to Africa.
Yep.
And we need that money here. I've watched for the past 4 years the illegal aliens suck our welfare dry. Take benefits away from our own veterans.
Yep.
We should not have a veteran living in the fucking street while they're issuing, $15,000 debit cards to the illegal aliens and allow them to stay in hotels.
Here's a chafer. Let's take the veterans you were talking about on the Mexican side of the border that are all over there that should be here. They're staying in Mexico, doing the lawful, honorable thing, not coming here illegally. Any one of those guys could get over that border without batting a damn eyelash.
Yeah.
Any one of them. But they do the honorable thing, and we're still leaving them there while all of these illegals flood over the border at all of these different spots. That's insane. Yeah. That's batshit.
And the left and the progressives are like, well, there's plenty of room. And They don't
No, there isn't.
know how the world works because they've never been anywhere. They weren't taught proper economics.
Yeah.
They don't have any morals
No.
because let's face it, I know the church is fucked, but when you had a Christian nation, you had a better set of morals.
So here's how that works, though. When we had a Christian nation, what we had was a culture who all shared essentially the same ideals. So everybody knew what page to read from and what set of rules to apply to each activity. And therefore, society worked smoothly. Now you've got a fucking hodgepodge. The whole melting pot thing is a bunch of crap. Okay? The poem on the bottom of the Statue of Liberty was written by some fucking socialist who won a contest when they were raising money to build the base for the Statue of Liberty. It has no meaning at all. It's just some poem. Some guy got lucky and won a fucking contest. That's it. It has no meaning.
I can't argue with you.
Good.
I'm just sick of paying for it, man.
Yeah, it is. It's ridiculous. And I'm sick of our brothers going overseas and dying in these damn wars. And then right on the heels of burying our dead, we've got thousands and thousands and thousands of this. It's happening with Afghanistan right now. All the Afghanis coming into the United States.
Yep.
What were we there for? To bring them all here?
All right. Now, this is my 2 cents on Afghanistan. If they assisted the United States in the fight against the Taliban and they were promised to be able to come here, we should honor our word.
Yeah.
All right. But if they just don't like it over there and all of a sudden they want to come over here, I'm sorry.
No.
You could unfuck it, fix it yourself.
Yep.
We did it.
Yep.
We overthrew England. Granted, France helped.
And we built a country out of absolutely raw materials.
Yeah.
Watch Grunt Speak live every Tuesday and Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern. And if you want to join Pop for Supporter Sundays, go to redonkulous.com/donate and make a monthly pledge. A link is in the Meat Gazer box.